Hi, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We're going to go ahead and get started. I appreciate everyone that is here in person on this cold night. We know school's been canceled for tomorrow for APS and Cherry Creek. So thank you for the ones that are here, braving the weather. Thank you for everyone online for attending. My name is Todd Steinkamp. I am the sports supervisor at the City of Aurora. We are here for our youth basketball season for 7 and under, 9 and under, 11 and under, and 13 and under. So we're really excited to get this started. Tonight is the coaches and parent meeting. We have 40 plus teams over our 4 age groups that start up practices next week. And we start games the first week of December. So if you have any questions throughout, just go ahead and raise your hand. Myself or any one of our staff can answer that, or we can answer some questions at the end of the meeting. We'll go ahead and get started. First, we want to thank you for coming again, and we want to thank our volunteer coaches. How many coaches do we have here tonight so far? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thanks to the coaches. We obviously could not do this without the coaches. This is a practice a week for these coaches, which is an hour and a half every night or once a week throughout the season, and then a game on Saturday. But it's not just that 3 hours of time. The coaches put in a lot of time in planning, contacting parents, and everything. So thank you very much to our volunteer coaches. The coaches do need help for their teams. Even though they're volunteered to be head coaches, the more assistants that we have on teams, the better. Anyone that's had their kid in sports knows that a practice is a lot better with 3, 4, 5 parents out there helping, rather than just one coach, shooting free throws. So even though that you didn't sign up to be a head coach, for all of those out there and on the internet as well, tell your head coach when he or she introduces yourself with that first call or email that you'd be willing to help out in any manner. That would really help out our program. Tonight, we're going to go through what's listed on the slide here. We'll go through our staff. We'll go through our philosophy of our City of Aurora youth sports programs, some important dates throughout the season. I'll go over what's on our website, the different forms that most of you have already filled out. Luckily for us, that code of conduct now is online, so everyone has filled out that, but there are some forms for coaches. We'll go over our mandatory reporting, which all of our coaches are in addition to our staff. We'll breeze through some rules, specific rules that come up the most during games, and we'll go through some practice procedures. First, want to introduce everyone to our team. Once again, my name is Todd Steinkamp. I'm the sports supervisor. We have Derek Tripp over here is the recreation superintendent, overseeing sports. Behind me is Reed Davis, Brett Johnson. The three of us do basketball together. For the most part, I handle practices in the schools. Brett assigns staff, Reed assigns refs, and then we all kind of handle games and game day, things like that. Any coaches' questions will mostly go to Reed at this point of the season, unless they're for practices, and then you'll go through me. So that is our staff. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Reed, and he'll continue on with the presentation. Thank you again. Yep. Okay. So first slide tonight is our philosophy. This is our philosophy in all of our youth sports leagues, whether it's basketball, soccer, baseball, whatever sport you're participating in. Our philosophy is not about the wins and the losses in City of Aurora recreational leagues. We want all the participants to play an equal amount of time. We want the participants to be taught not only the game, but to also be playing in an environment that fosters the physical, emotional, and social growth while learning the fundamentals of that game, whether I said basketball, soccer, or whatever. So we ask that our coaches and our parents as well not put too much emphasis on the wins and the losses. We're keeping score, 9 and above, we're keeping score on the board. There's standings, everyone knows what the score is, but that's not the end game. There's a lot of competitive leagues around the City of Aurora, Centennial. So we've chosen to just find our niche, which has been really successful with just a recreational league. So keep that in mind. We understand that all parents and coaches don't have that same philosophy. If we have 42 coaches, there's 42 different coaching styles. We understand that, but we just ask that everyone operate under the guise of these philosophies. Allow all the children, again, to participate in equal amount of time. Allow all the children to have fun. That is the end game. We want them to have fun. Okay. What I always go over at our coaches meetings that I've been doing over the course of the time I'm here is our end game is that we want all these kids to come back and play the sport again, whether it's with us or with somebody else. But we want the kids to have a good enough experience that they really want to play this sport again and come back next season, whether it's in the spring or next winter with us. So to the coaches, think about why you coach, how you coach, what you're going to coach. Be prepared to give your players a great experience every time you step on that court. We not only have this coaches meeting tonight, we also have a coaches clinic on Saturday that it will happen, but pending the weather, hopefully it'll be well attended. So on Saturday, that's a real important next step for the coaches, is a coaches clinic at 9:00 at Central Recreation Center. All right. Thank you again. Reed.
All right. So following up on that, one of our key things that we want to emphasize and have everybody participate in is sportsmanship. What does sportsmanship mean to y'all? Any thoughts? Oh my God, that was fantastic. Will you say that again? Say that again for everybody.
Sportsmanship me is if you lose it, you can congratulate the team who won.
Fabulous. Well, I'm done. Mic drop right there. Very good. Thank you. What else out there? I wish it was that simple. It is kind of that simple. But what else? What else defines sportsmanship? What other type of facets do we need to keep in mind in being good sports while we're out here this season? Come on. Some of you have been here before. Anything online? All right. I'll lead you a little bit. Oh, yes. It is. It's just a game. Here we go. So to follow up on my young lady right here, be nice. That's what sportsmanship is. It's being nice. Okay? And what that means is being nice to the other team. Like she said, when you're playing, they're not their enemy when you're out there. They're just another group trying to do the same thing that your group is trying to do. And everybody's just trying to do their best and see what happens. Sometimes your best is good enough. Sometimes it's not. The only thing you can do is give your best on that day. So keep that in mind. As coaches, that's all you can ask of your kids. And again, sometimes your best that day isn't even your best that you can do, but it is what it is. So you have to keep that in mind. So when we say be nice, what does that mean? All right, you think about it. Being good sports, yep. Not making fun of the other team. Not worrying about what the other team is doing is actually a good point there. Because again, you can't control that. All you can control is what you do, how you behave, and how your team does, and also how you behave as a spectator is very good part of sportsmanship. The one thing I put under there says no yelling. Why would I put no yelling? Who likes to be yelled at? Whoa, wow, look at all those hands. There were no hands, by the way, for those of you at home. Nobody likes to be yelled at. Even if someone is telling you the right thing to do, a good thing to do, they don't want to have it be yelled at them, right? Some kids find that distracting. I've seen a game where the coach is yelling at him from the sideline. The kid is dribbling and looks over like this, and the other team takes the ball and goes and steals and makes a layup. So it can be distracting. It can also be intimidating, right? You can make them more nervous and anxious and not perform their best because they're not out there relaxed doing what they need to do, but instead they feel this pressure that comes from either the coach or the parents yelling in the stands. It can also be confusing, right? The parents are yelling something. It might be different from what the coach is yelling or wanting them to do, possibly. And then also, sometimes when we yell, we get a little excited, a little angry, right? And then we start yelling. If we're struggling, either we're yelling at our players, and instead of being encouraging and being like, come on, get some rebounds, it's come on, get some rebounds. Or we're not getting rebounds. And then we said, is it our fault? Or is it the referee's fault that we're not getting our rebounds? Come on, referee. Help us out. Or come on, other team. And it might be the other team's fault that we're not getting rebounds. But we don't want to yell at them. They're not doing anything wrong. Good for them for rebounding better than we are. Okay? So yelling. We don't need to yell. We can still cheer. We can cheer and clap. We see something awesome. Some kid makes a great three-pointer in 9U, which actually isn't all that uncommon anymore, which is kind of cool. But anybody makes a great shot, makes a great play, even if it's on the other team, clap and cheer. You're there. Your price of admission is way less than it is for the Nuggets game, but you might see something really super cool, especially for 7U, 9U basketball. So enjoy, appreciate the game. And that goes to the next thing. Enjoy, watch the action. Most of you coaches are parents. How many coaches are parents? No parents? Okay, yeah. Most of our coaches are parents as well. Okay? Sit back and enjoy the game a little bit. Okay? Take it from me. I've been a referee. I've been a coach. I am a parent. I've been a parent coach. I've been an official. I said that already. I'm an administrator. I've seen it from all the different angles for a good while. So I'm trying to help you out, help you enjoy those 5, 6, 7, 8 years where you get to watch your kids play or you get to coach your kids play. But again, instead of being too worried about all the X's and O's and everything else, sit back and be a little bit of a fan and a spectator as that parent coach or as just a parent and enjoy it, because you never know when it's not going to be there anymore. So definitely take advantage of that. Enjoy and watch the action. Again, all you other parents as well, do that. And again, be supportive. Stay positive. That's what the kids want. That's what they're going to do best. That's what's going to help them the most. That's what's going to keep you in the right mindset, not getting, again, as Todd mentioned, too wrapped up in the X's and the O's and the wins and the losses and the final score, which you guys, and who's played basketball before, kids? Do you remember any of the scores of your games? Do you remember what you had after some of your games for snacks? Yeah, you do. What do you have? What do you have for snacks? Gatorade, yeah. Fruit things, cupcakes, etc., right? They'll remember that. They're more focused about that. When the game's over, they're moving on. They're worried about where that is and everything else. You know who's worried about what the score was and what happened and everything else? Yes, as parents and coaches, us adults. So let's remember, keep it in their right mind frame for the kids. So it's the same type of thing there. Like I said, cheer. Accept that they're not going to be perfect. They're going to make mistakes. The pros make mistakes. They make turnovers. Fouls are a part of the game. If you're not fouling, you're not playing hard enough. So if you get fouls called against you, that means you're playing hard. You're trying hard. Otherwise, you're just kind of standing on the court being a spectator. Accept that the referees are not going to make all the calls. You're watching your kid. They're watching 10 kids. So they may or may not see what happens to your child. And that doesn't mean it didn't happen, and it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It just means they're not going to see every call, or they may see a call and they'll see it one way, and you'll see it the way that favors you best, usually, because we're all human that way. So, our referees are generally unbiased. So keep that in mind. Again, respect everybody. Respect your own team. Respect your coaches that are out there coaching. Let them coach. And again, be encouraging. Be positive. Have a good time. Enjoy yourself while you're there, and then we can enjoy having you there with us.
Yeah. All right. Hi, everyone. Yep, that's working. Cool. Again, I'm Brett Johnson. I work with our sports program. I handle all of our staffing. But in terms of the important dates with our program, obviously today, November 7th, that's when we're having this coaches and parent meeting here at AMC. Practices are going to be beginning next week, the week of the 11th. They're going to be done at either our recreation centers or at local schools in the Aurora area. We do plan on having staff at all of our practices just so we can make sure that everyone's getting into the building, and also that hoops are down and everything's being taken care of. November 25th, that is when we're going to be having our game schedules posted. In the time leading up to that, while practices are being done, we're taking care of that and jerseys. We will also be formulating all of the schedules, making sure that we can accommodate for any of the coaches and their team's needs. Some coaches like to have later games. Some coaches like to have earlier games. We like to make sure that we can accommodate all of that for all of our teams. What? Oh, never mind. December 7th, that is when games will actually be starting. We will have another slide on where you can see all of our games. That's going to be on Team Sideline. That's what we use for all of our programs and where we post all of our schedules and game results. December 21st, that's going to be our final weekend of December games before we take a break for winter break. Given that the schools aren't available, we take a little break at the beginning of the season. That's going to be from December 23rd through January 3rd. And then we will resume the week of January 6th. And during that week, we'll also resume practices. Games are going to resume on January 11th. We like to have a little bit of like a 2-week period at the beginning of the season where we can get practices in and get all of our teams started up and everyone can kind of get a good momentum going into games. And we'll have a little time at the beginning of the second half of the season for that as well. On the 11th as well, is going to be Team Picture Day. We typically will do that at one of the local schools, and we partner with a photo company that will distribute all of that, and they also send out proofs to you so you can get a preview of what the photos will be like before you order them. The final games will be on February 15th, and then we will have a like makeup time of February 22nd in case we have to cancel for inclement weather or any aspect like that.
And I'll just jump in real quick. As far as practices go, as Brett mentioned, they'll start next week. You should be hearing from your coaches this weekend. They'll get their final rosters and everything after tonight, after we had a chance to get with them, make sure everything was lined up, everybody's in the right place where they're supposed to be, hopefully. And then we'll send that out to them. They'll get a hold of you guys, let you know when you're starting next week, when and where your practices will be. Practices will start at 6:45 at most sites, unless you're in the 7U practicing at the recreation centers, and then you'll get a little varied game time there. But most practices will go from 6:45 to 8:15. Like you said, your coaches will let you know. We will also try to send something out to everybody, kind of letting you know who your coach is and where your practice is going to be next week, just in case they happen to miss you here over the weekend before we get started next week. Carry on.
Cool. We can go to the next slide. Oh, we got a question. So the days of the week, you'll communicate, you can let Todd, myself, or Reed know your preferences. Todd handles all of the scheduling of practices as he works with the schools directly in terms of availability. You can let him know what your closest middle school is or elementary school, and we can work with you in terms of finding that correct time that works best for you. Practices are scheduled based off of the availability of our coaches and their preferences. So definitely get in touch with Todd. You can talk with him right now if you want to. But we still have a lot of availability from what I know. Yeah, we can get you on pretty quickly. I know we've got a few restrictions next week with some schools that aren't available, but that will open up the following week. Cool. Does that answer your question? Okay, perfect. Yes, so our website, it's auroragov.org/youthsports. Schedules are going to be on teamsideline.com/Aurora. We also send out the link to the schedules to our coaches when we finalize the schedule. But on our website is where you can find any forms, our code of conduct, our rules. Our rules have been updated. And then also we put in directions to games and practice locations. All right, we do have a weather line for inclement weather. You can call this phone number right here, 303-739-1900. We leave a recorded message on if there are any closures and where those closures are going to be. We also update the schedule on teamsideline.com/Aurora, and that also will reflect any kind of rescheduling. It'll kind of cross out the games that were canceled, and then it'll show which week they have been rescheduled to. We also encourage you to sign up for the text message and email alerts in this regard.
And in regards to weather cancellations, we will generally follow the schools. So if the schools are closed, we're closed because we use the schools primarily for our practices. But we kind of use them as a guideline as to whether or not we're going to have practices during the evening. You can call that number as well if you're ever not sure. We try to give every chance to safely and prudently hold practices so we don't cancel them at noon during the day unless something comes in like supposed to come in now, where the schools are canceling everything a day ahead or even, first thing in the morning. But we'll try to give it every chance we can and then update it, an hour to 2 hours before generally, if there is a reason to update things. Otherwise, plan on playing. If it's Not super bad. It's winter. It's Colorado. If we canceled, you wouldn't get much in every time there's a snowflake.
Cool. We also do follow mandatory reporting, much like teachers in schools. Anything that involves neglect or abuse to a child or even an adult, we are required to report that. All coaches are going to be considered mandatory reporters. Anything that they see within their team or at any of our games, they are required to report if any staff is not available. Did we have a question on the chat? We are actually having, in regards to practice plans, we do have some documents that we're going to be able to give out. Really importantly, we're going to be having a, excuse me, a coaches clinic this Saturday from 9 to 11 at Central Recreation Center. That is actually going to be managed by a third-party coach who actually works directly with the Denver Nuggets. He's going to basically bring in some of his teams. We're going to have some of our teams there, and we're going to run a practice showing what a really good practice can look like. A lot of times it can be easy for a coach who's inexperienced to not know exactly what to do, and this is going to be a good opportunity for them to get some insight on how to get a lot of production out of a practice.
And we as staff are always available as a resource. If you have questions about working on a certain skill, or if you have something comes up, coaches, with an issue that you're just not sure how to handle, definitely, get in touch with us, follow up with us. We'll help you out. We'll even go out to your practice with you and help you out if need be to either mitigate a situation or to help run a practice and help you work on some things. We're here. Our job here is to support you and make sure you have a good experience and your players have a good experience.
Coach myself is focused on technique, right? I mean, with all these age levels right now, for me as a coach, I'd be thinking about each one of these kids coming in, needs technique work, needs that skill development work. So I would focus on the very fundamentals of the game to start with. You'll know what your team looks like once you get into the season a little bit and know what kind of team you have. But it's always going to be a good idea to start with that skill development and work your way from there, and not try to put the cart before the horse, right? And day one come out with a big game plan of plays and things like that, where there's some kids who may not even know the dimensions of the court. So going through simple things like that are always going to be a good idea on day one. That's just my thought.
Thank you.
Eat.
All righty. So
Done.
rules.
Need to eat.
I believe I sent out the copy of the rules to everyone, and I will resend those again when I send correspondence. You should receive regular correspondence from us. Reminders about picture day, reminders about the holiday break, reminders about the schedules being posted and where to find those. And usually I'll send out a copy of the rules every time just so you have it fresh and there to refer to. In regards to rules, we follow the high school rules as our general guideline. 13Us and 11U divisions pretty much play standard rules with very little variation. The 9Us and the 7Us have some variations that are designed for age appropriateness and things like that. With all of our rules, keep in mind the intent and the spirit of our rule, okay? Especially when it comes to those modifications. It's not an exact science when we have the no full court press and the 7Us where we allow them to do a little shuffle, especially at the beginning of the season instead of calling every travel. So be prepared, but again, keep in mind why we're doing it. It may not be to the letter of the law, but we try to keep it equal and fair throughout the course of a game and everything else so that everybody knows what to expect. Usually the referees will check with the coaches and be like, hey, where are we at? This week, are we tightening up on this or that so that everybody has a good idea. So, as parents and everything else, just sit back and watch what happens. What we do? Oh, what is that one? We talked about the equal playing time. We have, limited amount of coaches we can have on the bench during the game. That's just for everybody's sanity. The head coach can stand up and coach as long as they're behaving and everything else. Make sure we're abiding by the decisions of the referees and the staff. Staff will usually should have a staff shirt with the logo on it, so they're easily identifiable. For coaches and everything else, for parents, if you have questions and issues, definitely use those staff people. They're a great mediary there. They're very well versed. We have some very experienced staff people. You probably met the ladies out front when you were coming in a little bit, greeting folks. They'll be some of our gym supervisors. As Brett mentioned, we have people at your practices all the time. We'll definitely have 2 or 3 people at your games. Again, they're there to assist you, make sure everything goes smoothly and nicely. If you don't behave, just one little thing there. If an adult is ejected, their child must also leave with them. So if for some reason or we get too excited and misbehave, they're got to go with you. So keep that in mind. Again, we use different size balls for the different ages. I won't go into them in depth. The little guys, the 7Us, will play on 8-foot baskets for practices and games. That's why we have them practicing at the rec centers, because we have adjustable baskets there. The clock runs continuously except for the last minute when we'll stop the clock, except for those younger age groups. Again, if the score is close, otherwise it just keeps running there. We don't play overtimes. Games can't end in a tie because, again, we're not worried about wins, losses, and standings there. There's no playoffs. We got a shorter free throw line for the younger guys. We don't call the free throw violation if the 9Us land past the free throw line, since that's a little bit of a long shot for them. So just kind of keep that in mind. The addendum that was sent out and is available and is posted online has a summary of those kind of special rules, especially for the 9s and 7s. So you might want to look at that just so you are well versed in that. We don't allow full court pressing for 9U and 7U. So that means the defense has got to get back and let the offense get down to their side and get a chance to set up and score before they can steal the ball and take it away. With the 7U, if a player is holding the ball, you can't rip it out of their hands, all right? You got to just play good defense. You can look for a pass, step in front of the pass and steal. If they're dribbling, you can steal off the dribble, but you can't grab it and steal it out of their hands. Is that it for rules? Any questions on rules while you got me? Yep, you can block shots. So yeah, like I said, once they release the ball, once it's kind of loose there, but what we don't want is once they hold it, the reaching and grabbing and the smothering like that, because we do allow teams to play any kind of defense. As I always say, if you're getting double teamed or triple teamed, what does that mean? Well, at least somebody's open. A couple guys are open if you're getting triple teamed. So teach your kids to move that ball and look for that open guy. Yes, sir. So the 7Us I know scoot up and shoot from in front of the regular free throw line. The 9U, I think it says that they're shooting from the 15 and they can jump over. That's a good question. Right now, I think it says they shoot from 15 and can jump over, but we're willing to address and negotiate that as need be. Does that make sense? So again, as I mentioned earlier, yes. Yeah, 9U plays on a 10-foot hoop, yes. All right, so as I mentioned before, I'm in charge of signing and overseeing the officials. I guess it's still I don't know if it's a problem. I'm going to change that slide. It's a challenge. Just to find enough folks. Again, it can be challenging because it's a tough job. That's why we have to treat our officials well. We have to make sure we're not yelling at those guys, letting them do their job, respecting what they do, because it is a little challenging to get folks out there. If nothing else, just because there's all sorts of other options they can do out there, especially with the pay rate increases and stuff with minimum wage and stuff with different leagues. So we do a really good job to try and help our officials, protect our officials, train our officials so that they're doing a good job and understand how to keep everybody happy. But yes, 11U plays on a 10-foot hoop with a regulation size ball.
I believe that's 29.5.
And that's That's all listed in the rules there. So yeah, so again, take care of our officials so that we got them, and they'll stick around. Again, we do have a lot of younger officials that this is their first time officiating. They got to start somewhere, and we're the place that they got to start. So keep that in mind. We don't want to chase those guys off. We do have some veteran officials as well. Again, just because they're veteran doesn't mean they're not human, and we can treat them, nasty and mean too. They don't want to come and spend their time and help us out if they're not having a good time. And also, we try to team those guys up and help them learn from each other and develop and be good officials for the future. Anything else?
Right. With uniforms, participants are required to wear the city-issued uniforms that we provide. We will provide a reversible jersey. It's going to be blue and white. It's going to be either primarily blue or on the inside it'll be white. I believe with home teams, we're going to be wearing white. Away teams are going to be wearing blue. So when you do arrive to your site, if you don't know already at that time, you can pretty easily switch it out. Jerseys may not be altered in any way. You can't put any kind of logos on them. We don't allow any kind of sponsorships with our teams in our program. So you can't make any kind of modifications to your jerseys. They do need to be tucked in for safety. We don't want any kids to end up getting tangled up in their jerseys if it's not the correct size. We always want to have those tucked in. Basketball shorts or any kind of athletic shorts are going to be recommended. I have never seen anyone playing anything besides that, but we want kids to be as comfortable as possible when they're playing, so that is what we do recommend. Excuse me. Along with that, basketball shoes are required. A lot of times it can be easy for kids to slide around if they're not wearing a actual basketball shoe. So we absolutely recommend you go and get some basketball shoes. We do partner with Play It Again Sports, and we will be sending out a discount flyer that you can take to the Play It Again Sports that's off of Hamden and Tower, I believe. And that will give you a good discount on any equipment that you might need. And then in terms of safety, shoes with lights are not allowed. We'll get to jewelry as well. Any kind of headwear or any kind of head beads are also not allowed. We just want to absolutely minimize any kind of risks for your child's safety.
And ideally on the shorts for the uniform, if you have something with no pockets, all the better. We're not going to require it, but why would we want no pockets? Anyone? Say that again. Oh, hold on. I think he's got it.
Easy for hands to get caught in pockets.
Yep. If you've ever seen what happens when someone's wearing pockets and the hand gets caught in there and the finger's pointing in the wrong direction that it's supposed to be, you'll understand why it'd be preferable not to have pockets on your shorts.
And kind of bouncing off of the hands and pockets, jewelry is prohibited for the safety of all players. This is going to be things like earrings, rings, necklaces, watches, hair beads. Covering jewelry with tape is prohibited. It just has to be off. As Reed mentioned, if a finger gets caught up and it has a ring, that's not going to be good for anyone. So absolutely, please make sure that your child doesn't have any kind of jewelry or earrings, necklaces, any of that when they do arrive for games and practices as well. If a player says, I just had my ears pierced and I can't remove the piercing, then they can't play. Unfortunately, we just really value safety at the very top of our program, and we just want you to all keep that in mind. And along with that, please remind your team parents of the consequences of this. And should they choose to have a piercing done this season, those will be the policies that we have to follow. Oh, question? Normal gym clothes is fine. If you want to wear jerseys as well, that's also cool too. Yeah, we don't really extend it beyond games. Cool. All right, game days. Coaches must provide a parent volunteer for the scorer's table to either do the scoreboard or keep stats on the score sheet. This is a really family-driven program for our entire sports program, really. With all of our games, there's going to be parents that are involved. One parent from each team. You're going to have to do either the scoreboard or the score sheet. Our staff will be knowledgeable in terms of handling the scoreboard and can also teach you how to do score sheet. It's really easy, so please don't be afraid of it. And we just want everyone to be as involved as they can be. Turning in your lineup card is going to be required prior to the start of each game, so we can put that onto the score sheet. We do have lineup cards provided for each game day, as well as any pens or pencils that you might need. All decisions made by supervisors are made to keep things running smoothly and are final. A lot of times, scores can get a little mixed up between the scoreboard versus the score sheet. We're always going to follow whoever is on the score sheet. Should a situation arise that isn't covered under our written rules, the supervisor is going to have final say on how that situation is handled. As well, Todd, myself, and Reed, we do bounce around all of our games on game day. We're basically all over town, and if there is ever any kind of situation, they will also contact us, and we'll try to get there if we aren't already, so that we can also help address any situations.
Has anybody here ever kept score for us?
Got some hands.
Couple in the
We got
back.
some hands.
Is it easy?
Yes, I did.
Oh yeah. She's adamantly shaking her head yes. Also, what's the advantage of being at the scores table?
You get to enjoy the game.
It's a pretty good seat. You're right there courtside. Everybody else is on the other side of the gym. We got the bleachers pulled out at all the schools and everything else. And that's where we ask you guys, all the parents and everybody else to sit. But those score people are right there up close and personal. So, yeah, get in line, sign up early.
Great view. All right. As well, I mentioned this is a very parent-involved program. Help your coaches being there on time to drop off your kids for both practices and games. At the 9U level, parents should be expected to stay at practices and games to help supervise their children, as well as if there are any kind of issues that your child does experience. I would say even beyond that, just being involved, helping out as you can. If you can't be even an assistant coach, just helping out at practices is really helpful. I know when I was a little kid, if my parents helped out with any of my sports that I was playing, I thought it was really fun, and it was great to see them get involved. Communicate with your coaches if you're going to be absent for any games or practices, what other kind of issues that they might have. This can be whatever you feel that they need to know. If necessary, reach out to myself, Todd, and Reed in regards to this as well, so we can be up to date and help support you in any manner. Be a team mom, be a team dad, help out with sacks. Also, keep in mind the code of conduct. If you see a parent that's getting a little too fanatic and they might be getting a little negative with some of their comments, it's important to speak up, and we also want everyone to just be as positive as they can be. And as I mentioned before, volunteer if asked to assist. Or if needed. Schools do have their own rules specifically. We need to follow these rules in order to use these schools for practices and games. Please do not cancel your practice without notifying Todd, myself, or Reed, so that we can communicate that with the schools. Food and beverages, with the exception of water, is prohibited in all schools. If you bring like Gatorade for a team snack afterwards, have it outside after your game. It doesn't matter if you're an employee at this school, it's still not allowed. When schools come back on Monday morning or Sunday, if they come into work and they see that the whole place is covered in garbage, it's not going to be well for us. And schools have been known to revoke our access to schools. So we want to always leave it better than we found it. Also respect our hall monitors. We do have extra staff on game day to greet you when you do come into the building, and also make sure that everyone's just going to the gymnasium and that's it. We aren't allowed to be anywhere else in the school besides the gymnasium. Coaches, parents, players, you have to abide by their decisions as they are our staff. In order to help us stay at these schools, we just need to follow these rules. Another part of the schools, you can't arrive early for practice. The time that you're scheduled on our practice grid, that's the time you're allowed to arrive. You can't practice beyond your scheduled time. We do need that for other teams in order for everyone to get equal practice time. You can't call the school about anything. If you have a problem with the school, come to us, let us know about it, and we will handle it on your behalf. We're not allowed to prop open doors. This is just a security measure. Anyone that works with our program will be at doors and can let people in. You can't move equipment. If something's in your way, let us know and we can help address it. And you also just can't wander about the school. As I mentioned, we're only allowed to go into the gymnasium. Our areas of access are just for the gymnasium and for the restrooms only. Bouncing balls in the hallways and against the walls is also prohibited. They can leave marks. They don't like it when we leave marks, as that's just extra work for them. As I mentioned before, leave it better than you found it. Again, no food or beverages. You can't tape anything on the floor. If you need things like dots to put down for practices, we can help you out with getting those for your own use. But please do not tape anything onto the floor. Where did Reed go? But yeah, thank you for coming, whether that's in person or online. We want to make sure everyone is on the same page with our program, and we just want to make this the best experience for your children. Really, parents and families make the difference with our program, so we thank you for being part of this meeting. Reed and Todd, do you guys have anything else?
Yeah, real quick. Is this on? Yeah. So I want to say, one thing that we're all very proud of working here with the city of Aurora and providing youth sports to the community is the integrity of the programs that we offer. You all know, if you have old enough kids who have gone through sports, that it gets very competitive, it gets very expensive, and you start to lose the idea and the spirit of what this game is all about. And we're very proud in the fact that we feel like we've preserved that integrity. So we want to make sure you all help us to preserve that in the way of being great fans and great parents and coaches and players. And so really make sure that the spirit is there in this game, so we can continue to offer these programs at a low cost and in the way that we do it, in a very recreational way, and make sure we're building these kids up and the love of the game. Really, that's what I really think of this as, is that we leave them loving this game as coaches and spectators. Leave this game loving the game more than when they first arrived. That's, I think, our number one goal. It's very simple. Thank you for being here. The ones that are online too, thank you for being on. It definitely shows that you all are the ones that really do care about this and are taking time with this. And so we expect you all to be our leaders out there. Yeah, is there any questions? Do you guys have anything else to add? Or
I have a question.
Do we have any questions?
I do
Yeah,
have a
sure. Okay. Mm-hmm. For those online, I just want to repeat the question who may not have heard online. The question was about the size of the ball at 11U. Right now, I suppose we're going to 29.5 full-size ball, and so the question was, can we utilize a 28.5, so the women's size ball at the 11U age group, just in the way of the development of the kids and able to handle the basketball. And we'll definitely consider that and talk about that. I don't see any reason why we couldn't, definitely consider that. And I think that is kind of the standard actually with youth basketball. So we'll definitely discuss that. Yeah. So.
All right. Question.
Any other questions we have online or?
Yes, question online.
Yeah,
Can you
sure.
hear me? Can you hear me?
Kwame.
Yes.
Got the hand raised, Kwame. If you want to.
Yes.
Go ahead and speak up if you're there, Kwame.
Okay. I'll be coaching the 7U, and I need
Or if you want
I
to put it in
have-
the chat too, if Mike isn't working or something, you can always put questions in the chat.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat. Can you hear me?
Someone said they like the idea of the size. Someone asked about the size of the ball before that as well. So, and one thing I don't know if we had mentioned, these guys had mentioned about the competitive level of play too in our rec leagues, is that we really try to make sure that when teams get to a certain level, very, very good level, that that maybe they've graduated out of what we do here, and so we talked to coaches about that. There's certainly going to be teams, you're going to find them. There's going to be teams, there's going to be differing levels of play. So just bear with that, because there just are some teams that'll just get 3-4 kids, especially at the younger age level. I mean, you get one kid who can just ball out at the younger age level, it's just going to be a lot of baskets made. But it just kind of is what it is. You have to kind of roll with those with that. So yeah. Anybody else, Randy? Oh, is there a mercy rule? Yeah, not really. I mean, the games go pretty quick actually. So while scores can get large, can be, especially the younger age level, when you get the one kid who can score a lot of buckets, there really isn't. So
Yeah, we at some points, if the point differential does get to, I think it's 30, Todd, we will keep score, but we will not reflect that on the scoreboard. Yes. Yeah, it's 2 halves, 20 minutes each. Yeah, I would say, yeah, it'll be the same. If we do find that there is a big skill difference, we will leave the door open for changes to be made so that the skill level is even across all divisions. I see a little hand over here.
All the basketball. Oh. The medium one is only basketball.
the question, I think, was what was the snack recommendation for after the game, which is a very, very important question. And so
Would you like to tell us what you think the best snack after a game would be? No, that's okay.
no, she's trying to figure out so for those online, she's trying to figure out what the best snack options would be after the game, which is a very important question. And I would say it's probably up to the parents. Obviously, we promote very healthy snacks if you have them. If not, it's always fun to have some sugar too after the game, probably. So I'm sure you'll see some of that as well. So we do have another question online. So Kwame had a question, said, when is the 11U going to have their practices? I have an older boy in 11U. I need to know when he has practice to decide the day of practice for the 7U. I'm assuming Kwame maybe is a 7U coach and needing to know practice schedule for the 11U. So I know Todd is working with all the coaches. They are working on their schedules, and those should be out soon, because coaches are supposed to be by the end of the weekend, right? Reaching out to all their family to let them all know that those times and dates. But I would get with Todd Steinkamp, Kwame, if you are a coach with 7U, and then we can decide that with you in person probably. Another question here online. In years past, games were scheduled for the first few weeks, and then based on record skills, the teams were put in divisions. Will this be happening again this year? Yes. That's probably why I think what the first few weeks of December is, and then when we come back, we try to mix it up. Someone said fruit granola bars for snack after the game. Good idea. Fruit granola bars is perfect. Okay.
We did have one hand right here.
If you miss practice, so what I would say is if your child has a fever, sick, that kind of thing, you don't want to take them if they're going to be contagious. So just communicate with the coach. That's the number one thing. Let coach know if he can't be there. For me, every case when that happens, I'm good with that as a coach always. If I just get communicated with, that's the most important thing. Let them know, because a lot of coaches will have game plans, practice plans. So if a kid's not going to be there, then they're kind of accounting for that number. But if you let them know in advance, there should be no issue with that. I don't think with any coach. Shouldn't be. Yeah. This is co-ed. Yep. A mix of boys and girls. Anybody else have any questions? Oh, so someone asked, how can I become a coach? Reach out to one of our staff for sure. Reach out to so Reed Davis is the man on our side for that. We could always use coaches, and I would say if you're a parent and there already is a coach assigned for your team, get with your coach. They'll reach out to you to let you know about the schedule, and get with your coach and let them know you're interested in coaching. And certainly just getting started and being an assistant coach and helping out one of the head coaches right now is a great way to start. So, yeah. There's more suggestions, I think, on the ball size. So we'll definitely take all the suggestions on ball size too. Lots of suggestions on the. Oh, and then Reed just put his email in there. So for the gentleman over Timothy about the coaching question, feel free to shoot an email off to Reed, and he can get you started. Anybody else? Any other questions? For practice, that's fine. I would say, yeah, it's mainly a tool the coaches can use. And if all the kids need to do a dribbling drill, then they can all have their own ball. And I would say, if you want to try to find the size, that they would be using, it's always nice because they can practice in the off season as well, I would say. But if you don't have, just whatever you have is going to be better than nothing for sure. So yeah. Is dunking allowed in 9U? If we had someone dunking in 9U, this might be the wrong place for them, I would say, but
they just can't have a ring on. They just can't have a ring on.
Need to have no ring, no jewelry. Yeah. Okay. There's another question. I'm coaching 11U, and I believe that I have 11 players on my team. Is it possible to max out to 10 players to avoid the issues with playing time? We attempt to probably do what we can in the way of numbers and try to be fair across the board. And when we get numbers, we're going to put, I'm sure there is a max that we have in mind, and then we try to keep it at that, certainly. But what I would say too is it's never a bad thing to have a few more kids, because it's winter season and flu season, and you're going to get kids missing practice. You're going to get families on vacation during the holidays. And so for the ones that have fewer kids, that's where the challenge probably lies. You'll have times where you have a lot less kids. So it's never a bad thing, because if you have 10 kids, you can go 5-on-5, right? So that's always a good thing. Anybody else? Yeah. On a 10-foot? Yep. Yes. Yeah. Yep. 8 and 9, yeah. So
No. Yeah, the only ones shooting on 8-foot hoops is the 7Us.
and 9, you'd be surprised 9U, because a lot of them can get it up there. It's yeah, sweet. Yeah, so the question was, it's winter season and we're going to be dressing up and have a lot of layers on when we first get to practice. And yes, I'm sure, certainly there'll be a spot on the sideline you can probably throw your stuff down. It's always a good idea to bring a bag, right? So if you have a duffel bag or some kind of backpack to put your stuff in your bag so you can keep it together, that's always a very good thought.
And actually, to follow up on that, if for some reason you lose an item at a school, your best course of action would be to check with that school, because we don't necessarily, sometimes when we show up to schools, there's already stuff laying around, so we don't necessarily gather up and take home anything that's there. So if you've left something at the school, go back and check with that school for your items, because we don't have like a general lost and found. If you lose something at a game day, it's more likely that we might have that. You can check with your gym supervisors the next week, or you can call in. If you're at a recreation center, you can definitely go to the recreation center or check with us. But the best course of action is keep good tabs on your stuff.
Definitely. Put your names on any balls you have or equipment you have. It's always a good idea to get the names written down there. So another question, there's one saying, how do I see a list of kids in 7U and how many are they? Again, that's going to be a Todd Steinkamp question. So if you are a coach, you'll need to get with him. And then someone asked about who the coach is for 7 years old. Well, your coach should reach out to you and they will let you know and communicate who they are and your practice schedule. So you should hear from them by the end of the weekend. Anybody else? Yeah. I believe we're still taking kids at this point, and certainly we'll fill in the teams that with the smaller rosters to start with. We try to, I think, do our best to put kids where the preferences may lie or where locations may lie. But yeah, I would say if we have a team of 7, we'll hopefully try to get a couple more kids on your team. So we have some time still left where we'll let registrations come through still. So hopefully you get a couple more maybe in your team even. So. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here. We really appreciate your time. And certainly you can reach out to us if you have any questions throughout the season, but best of luck and really enjoy this time you have. Okay. Thanks everybody. Thanks everybody online too. We appreciate you.